So assuming that we're trying to get to the belly down positioning, right? There's like two schools of thought. One, if people's hands are high, actually we're gonna rotate it that way the camera can hear me. Hands are high, it's easier to roll, right? Because if I was to take this hand like so, right, and we were to force this type of rotation, logs roll easier, right? Well, the other school of thinking, having everything tight and type of rotation right here, so when you do roll them over, their hands are trapped. If this makes sense. So, first we're going to basically establish back control. Whoosh, right? And you see how much extra red, right? If my hands go super high up and I decide to belly down this person, I have to rotate, and when I rotate, I now have to make sure the hips cannot disappear. So I'm going to basically arch when I do this. Does that make sense? I'm making him into a straighter line, air quote, right? Hinging a high, straighter line, and then I will rotate. I don't like doing this method because I think I actually lose my hooks most of the time. Me, because it's a lot of tension on my knees. That's a personal preference, right? You might find that you have greater success with this type of extension. I find I have the most success from this if I do a gift wrap style while mounted, right? And what I'll do is I'll go here, I'll address here, and if this elbow is in front of his other elbow, this is great, right? You see how I'm trapping right here, right? And then I can pull him, again, that type of pulling mechanism, and here I can drive it down again, right? You seeing that? It is a small distinction, because if his elbow is on the other side, right, and I try to do something like this, and I'm like, hey-yar, and I try to turn him, his shoulder is now kind of in my way, right? Where being on this side, and I straighten him out, very easy to roll him. Does that make sense? Are you seeing what I'm talking about?
Yeah, elbow. Is
Yeah,
either
so
in front of his arm or behind his arm.
where this arm is matters, because if it's up here or anything past this elbow, right? I don't really want to do that. If it's past like this is a win, right? That's why I'm just taking traditional gift wrap style, both with grabbing him, not grabbing me, right? I'm gonna basically push it to the ground, rotate my hands, right, where I'm like punching the ground, if that makes sense. Reason why is, can you turn towards me, sir? Right, and if I'm like this, so now I'm gonna punch the ground, he tries to turn towards me, it's very hard, right? Now I'm going to basically take a small knee step backwards, pull him, and then turn, right? If you're having difficulty with the turn, hike the elbow, right? This is gonna make it very uncomfortable for them, right? And then you start to drop. Now, next thing, take your head and try to put it on the other side. If you don't, you kind of do what I just did right there, where I was just like holding him with my head. Does that make sense? If you take it to the other side, like so, your ability to like stop his head from going anywhere is increased. Also, your ability to rotate increases from basically from there to either direction, right? Silly distinction, kind of important, right? Punch the ground, right? And when you're going, you're gonna step, and my head's over on this side, if that makes sense. And then we belly. Just to kind of like establish how to get in these positions, right? So we have the pencil, and we have little boulders, right? These get better when we can increase the rotation, aka gift wrap. Does that make sense? Or high elbow control. Straighter the pencil. Make sense? Yep. Okay. I just want you to give both of those a try. Where one, you are doing the mount, right? Elbow being passed, gift wrap style. Push it to the ground, take here, and just rotate them over, right? Or, I will do from actual back on that one. That one makes no sense for me. You're on the back, you're gonna take double unders, you're gonna work their hands up, right? Basically pinching at the elbows, connect your own hands, etc. And then start to turn. Again, your head placement is important, right? And you can also take one foot off while turning. Depress and turn, right? Make sense? Okay, let's just get to the position, and then we're gonna describe the position, if that makes sense, okay? Cool, let's do it. Now that we've established what the position is, I'm gonna talk how to get there. Right, we're gonna, then we'll go belly down. So we're just gonna do normal back. Right, arms up. Sure. Right, if we're here, right, and we have this type of thing, the first thing I need to do, right, is to make sure he can't get up on his hands, right? If he builds up to his hands and his feet, right, while I'm on his back, go ahead, sir. Right. My first thing I need to do is basically 2 on 1 hand and collapse it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That means even if the posts, right, big and strong, I have to attach to one, I have to take it away, right? Now, precluding the fact that, like, if it's an elbow or something like that, we can always, again, half Nelson or any of that kind of nation, but you can also literally just take your hand, put it underneath, and prod. Right, it's going to literally fall by itself because it's like a rotational wedge, right? He is using it as a pillar. I try to put something on the brace so he can't move, and then I start driving force over it. Does that make sense? All right, so he builds back up. All right, if I was trying to get it, I'm gonna put a stopper, and I'm gonna rotate on top of it, right? AKA driving it forward, right? And here, my feet, I don't care if you cross your feet or not. I don't ever cross my feet. I just think it's a bad habit. But like, you can stay on your toes, or you can have flat-footed, but always with your hips, you should be driving a little bit, right? Be nice to your partners. We're not angry cobering. We're not like getting super hard on driving. You know, be nice to people's backs and their hips. But I should actually be picking his hips up. I'm not right now because I'm higher. But you should be picking people's hips up. Be nice in here. It's going to cause a lot of tension, but just as a core concept, you should be lifting people's hips. Does that make sense?
So, like lifting hips, what do you mean, like?
Yeah, so like, assuming I was trying to establish this position and hold them, right, I'm going to basically take my feet, I'm going to start to raise them.
Oh.
Right? Now, that's still the nice version, because the real mean version is you start coming here, driving, and you start like pressing. And that sounds like it's not that big of a distinction. When you feel it, you'll understand.
Yeah, it looks like it.
If I was lower on his back in doing this, it would be way worse. Because like the lower you get, the more tension you put on the lower back, and then you're trying to drive those hips up at the same time. Real shitty. If you've got lower back problems, not the best position. Anyway, so are we seeing this positioning? Right. Most of the time, you will end up with your hands not entrapped, right? And that's just why most people think it ends up as a stalemate. If this is the case, and your hands are not gainfully employed, I want you to gainfully employ them, right? So typically, you can even just grab the head, like so, so can you try to keep your head to the floor, right? So take the head, swoop it up, right? And actually palm up on his head. We're not gonna be rude or anything, grabbing the nose. That's a different tactic. People will like take their hands and rake. You don't need to do any of that, all right? Scoop the head, press it, scoop it, right? Because where are his hands? They're busy, right? If they're out, right? If they're out like that, cool, same thing, scoop. If they're further out, right? I want you to take hands. I want you. Oh, I'm so
You're good.
sorry.
You're good.
I just poked him in the eye. Don't do that for the love of God. Right? I want you to scoop people's shoulders. Right? This kind of maneuver where you keep people's shoulders up and pinched does increase the chance that they can rotate on you again. Right? But the benefit of just doing something like this is you also employ the fact that you can do arm bars. Right? By isolating out one side, right? You can now go chicken wings, body arm bars like this. You can do reverse Americanas, right? Putting your arm on top. I do not recommend you go for these. When you do this, like this, if he decides to rotate, right? Typically the other direction, right? You can tuck their elbow, right? And they can now escape. Does that make sense? I have very little shoulder control, right? So if he just hips out, right? And scoots, I've lost it, right? So, just know if hands are high, right? And you were doing this, you can always do like arm attacks. If the arms are in, you're most likely not going to do arm attacks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you have arms in and elbows, these are an important thing too. If you can't get into elbows, right, like you are on the outside of them, I would highly recommend you try to dominate this space, right? And again, swoop, right, a little bit of press, right, lift it up, so a little bit of press this way, and pull it up, right? And then take your other hand and just put it in there. And you see how my chest is off of him when I'm doing that? So it's actually going to be on him initially, and then when I lift, you see how my chest come up, right? So like, if we were really going, rotate, lift. You see how much space that allows for this to come in? If I stay low and I'm like, I'm going to get this in there, he's literally just going to grab a hand. Does that make sense? So make a little space for yourself and lift up. Tracking? Alright, so I just want you to get in the position, and then I want you to like establish here, and if their arms are out, I want you to establish basically just this, right? And if you are in this type of, here, we'll do another version if you can't like arms tuck, sir. Let's say I'm having a lot of difficulty, right? His head's really strong and I can't get in, right? You're gonna take your hand, you're gonna shove the shoulder, right? You see I've pinned this other shoulder, pinching it onto it. I'm going to work the underside, grabbing his own shoulder, right? This is a very technical explanation of just put your arm across his neck, right? But I'm gonna push his shoulder down so he can't look this direction very well, right? Can you look this direction, sir? Right. So he looks, and then I can literally open it. Right. So we keep it pressed. Right. That way we're incentivizing one type of movement, right? One type of rotation, and we're going to encourage it. Right. We're just going to open it. Right. And then we're going to work our way in, and then we can either pull it or cinch into the line killer, aka short tail. I'm so sorry. You're good. Anyway, does that make sense? So if they're super tight, just pressing the shoulder, and you'll see that it causes this like small type of rotation, right? They're gonna do this, and then you're just gonna. You can typically lead with your pinky if you can, but always knife hand, no bricks, right? Big things don't get into small spaces. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Small things.